This is CBS.
And this is it. No tomorrow for the Dodgers. A must-win situation against the Mets today at Chavez Ravine. The Blue Crew is ready, and so are the fans, ready to go the distance for the National League pennant. I'm Chris Canangla.
Hello, everyone. I'm Valerie Coleman. Also ahead, Republican presidential hopeful George Bush looks for support from LA's top GOP. While the man now in the Oval Office goes back to school to help get out the vote.
I'm Mike Lovio Perez. The overcast is back, and that keeps our weather on the cool side. That's good news. I'll have the details.
And I'm Dr. Howard Torman. I'll be dipping into the mailbag to answer some of your medical mail.
Those stories and all the headlines when Action News gets underway about a minute from right now.
Daryl, more pecani sauce.
Here you go.
This ain't Pace pecani sauce.
So?
Pace is made with fresh vegetables and spices by folks in San Antonio who know what pecani sauce should taste like. This stuff's made in New York City.
New York City! That really chaps my hide.
Pick up the original. Pick up the Pace.
If you like chicken, you'll love Alpha Beta's everyday low prices on Foster Farms chicken. And this week, the prices are even lower during our terrific chicken sale. We've cut the price on Foster Farms cut-up fryers to 89 cents a pound. Tender, juicy, whole fryers are just 59 cents a pound. And lots more chickens on sale, but only through Sunday. So come on in and check out the difference.
Check out the difference at Alpha Beta.
Amtrak's All Aboard America fares, the best price view you'll ever get of America. The stories behind tomorrow's headlines, weeknights at 7 on Channel 2. And now, from KCBS Television in Los Angeles, Southern California's most honored news broadcast. This is Channel 2 Action News at noon.
To live or die in LA, the 1988 baseball season has come down to one game playoff. That's it, the game between the Mets and the Dodgers. The winner goes to the World Series. The loser goes home. The Mets clawed their way into a deciding game by virtue of their 5-1 win over the Dodgers last night. The sun set very early on the Dodgers, and let me give you a little bit of play-by-play with what happened. It was New York that scored first. It scored a run in the first inning and another in the third. It is the very first time in the series that the Mets had taken the opening lead, and then David Cone, ineffective in Game 2 of the championship series, certainly was sharp last night, as was the Mets outfielder Kevin McReynolds. Now, McReynolds is the one who came into Game 6 in a horrible slump. He definitely snapped out of it with 4 hits, including a 2-run home run that sealed the Dodgers' fate. Fate was not kind to the Dodgers' warhorse Kirk Gibson. Gibson, who was playing with a leg injury, just was not up to his usual Captain Kirk. He failed to get a hit in 4 tries. But he wasn't the only one to suffer through a long night. The Dodgers managed only 5 hits against Cone and the Mets. The 5-1 loss by Los Angeles sets up a classic confrontation for Game 7. And tonight's Game 7 will pit the Dodgers' Orel Hershiser against New York's Ron Darling. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Well, they're still the darlings of the diamond as far as we're concerned. Of course, the Dodgers. And for most fans last night at Chavez Ravine, that exactly was the case. It was a hard game to lose for Los Angeles, but leaving the packed stadium last night, many expressed optimism, and just about everyone was passionate.
Oh, the poor things. They just didn't have the spark.
It was 2 great emotional victories over the Mets, and it was inevitable. But it's tomorrow.
Yeah, they're going to come back tomorrow and win the whole thing.
Just a little long. I extended my vacation here, so I don't mind it, but tomorrow night will be celebrated.
I got a bottle of champagne that I brought to the game with me because I figured tonight was going to be the one.
Tomorrow will be.
So what happened?
I have to wait one more day.
Tomorrow.
That's right, tomorrow. My house. My house.
The series now knotted 3-3. Game tonight will decide who goes to the World Series.
Okay, now let's switch a little bit, but still in the area of sports. New Zealand's defeated America's Cup sloop and the U.S. cargo ship carrying it were released this morning by Cuban authorities. We're saying that the vessel Tampa Seahorse and the yacht were captured yesterday by Cuban gunboats and forced into port 500 miles east of Havana. Cuba said that the ship violated its 12-mile territorial limit. The New Zealand sloop was being shipped through the Panama Canal to New York following its America's Cup loss in San Diego last month. The yacht is scheduled to begin a 7-city tour of the Northeast October 21st. Chris?
Major showdown is expected next Monday when Yugoslavia's decentralized governments meet to assign blame for continuing unrest. That nation's varied ethnic groups are demonstrating with increasing violence. It is a battle for power and a protest against the economy, which is reeling from high unemployment and soaring inflation. Yugoslavia comprises 6 republics and 2 autonomous provinces. Most of the protesters are members of the Serbian majority. Yugoslavia and neighboring Albania are the only Eastern European nations not under direct Soviet control. Relative calm returned to Algeria today following 6 days of street riots that claimed hundreds of lives. The violence was sparked by religious friction and economic problems. More on the story from CBS News correspondent Anthony Mason.
With calm restored to the cities, the Algerian government felt confident enough to call off the 6-day state of siege this morning. But soldiers and tanks are still posted at strategic crossroads in the capital. President Shadli's promise Monday of greater political freedoms contained few specifics. But if the public wasn't completely convinced, the protesters have at least been quieted. Thousands began returning to work yesterday. We need political changes, said this Algerian. We're waiting for them. Estimates vary, but the Algerian army may have killed as many as 500 people during the riots. Burials were forbidden during the state of siege. The Algerian government will now be watching to see whether the belated funeral services bring renewed protests. Anthony Mason, CBS News, London.
Meantime, back in the political wars in this country, President Reagan went back to a Pennsylvania high school where he campaigned 8 years ago. He talked to about 1,800 students, and his message was as expected: get out and vote. And you know for whom. That's what the president tried to say to convince the young people who would soon be voting for president one day. The president also told the students the Republican vote means, and I am quoting here, work, paychecks, and a chance to make your hopes come true, unquote.
Vice President George Bush arrived in Los Angeles last night to prepare for tomorrow night's presidential debate. And this morning he had breakfast with Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates. Gates didn't endorse Bush as such, but did criticize Mike Dukakis.
I think there's a general unease on the part of law enforcement across the country, the working police officers in particular, about Governor Dukakis and what he carries into and would carry into the next presidency.
Bush has no campaign appearances scheduled for today. He's going to concentrate on studying up for his debate with Dukakis. Dukakis also arrived for the debate last night, but he won't be spending all his time studying. He will meet briefly with reporters about a half hour from now at the Bonaventure Hotel in downtown L.A. And then tonight he will be at a Democratic fundraiser. The debate, of course, tomorrow night at 6 at UCLA. We'll carry it live.
And just ahead, on Action News, Mac is going to be here with a check of the weather.
That's the latest on the investigation into the fire at the Central Library. All this and more when we come back.
Hello? Hi, dear. It's your wide-footed mom. You sound excited. I am. Remember you telling me about chick-wide shoes? Had to, Mom, with your wide feet. And I appreciate it. You should see the beautiful shoes I just bought.
Foot Thrills by Clinic. Foot Thrills for that go-all-day feeling. The great look you want, the cushiony comfort you need. Foot Thrills, now in good supply at Chick-wide Shoes. For the Chick-wide Shoe store nearest you, call 1-800-341-2888.
The Home Club Challenge. September 28th, National Lumber sells the Intermatic wall switch timer for $15.99. A good price. September 29th, Builders Emporium beats National Lumber by 6%. Home Depot is 12% lower. But every day, Home Club non-members save over 28% on the exact same item. And Home Club members save even more, proving once again that at the Home Club, you save on everything, every day.
The Cooper Building, the heart of the garment district, 860 South Los Angeles Street at 9th, downtown LA. Over 70 discount showrooms where you'll save up to 75% every day of the week on the latest styles for men, women, and children. Choose from the largest selection of nationally advertised designer ready-to-wear fashions. A complete selection of quality leather goods, shoes, cosmetics, and more. More choices, more savings at the Cooper Building, the heart of the garment district, and in Santa Ana at 1928 South Grand.
Hormel wants to show you two highly acclaimed recipes for chili. Here is Herb Greeby's recipe, which takes 36 hours to prepare. I'm told it's positively delicious. The second recipe requires an opener, a pan, and a can of Hormel chili. And many people prefer this recipe to that one, which leads us to say that in some cases, Hormel might not be the next best thing to homemade. In some cases, it might be better. Hormel chili, the next best thing to homemade.
Well, there's been a major development in the McMartin preschool molestation case. 27 charges, almost a third of the charges against Raymond Buckey and his mother Peggy, have been dismissed, and 8 others may be dropped later today. The DA's office requested the dismissal of the 27 counts because of children who would not testify. The 8 others are being dropped by prosecutors following a review of the evidence. Only 10 children have testified in the trial, which originally involved 41 child witnesses. A 4-hour barricade ended in West L.A. last night with 2 people dead and 1 charged with murder. A man and a woman were shot and killed allegedly by a Chinese national named Zhodong Bai. Bai then barricaded himself in his apartment on Federal Avenue. An LAPD SWAT team surrounded the apartment, but officers talked Bai into surrendering before they had to take any action. Investigators have been talking to him this morning, trying to determine if he knew the victims and just what provoked the shootings.
And investigators are trying to determine if the latest fire to strike the Central Library was arson. Last night's blaze was the 3rd fire at the library in 3 years. The other 2 were definitely arson caused. This fire was confined to the basement, which was containing some construction materials at the time. A sprinkler system was in place, but it was not operational. There were no injuries, and the damage was described as relatively minor. There were no books in the building, which is now undergoing a $152 million rehabilitation. It's scheduled to reopen in 1992. Hazardous asbestos debris has been found in crawl spaces between all 19 of the floors of the criminal courts building downtown. But the officials are saying that the office workers are not in any danger. The crawl spaces have, however, been declared off limits to maintenance workers who could kick some of that cancer-causing fiber into the air conditioning ducts. A Cal OSHA spokesperson says that the county will probably be cited for unsafe conditions and ordered to clean out the asbestos.
Kind of murky out there, but at least it is a little cooler. Thank you, Mac.
You're welcome. My pleasure. We knew the marine layer would finally come back, and that is our air conditioning system. I mean, with it, we're doing fine. We don't have to turn the air on. Without it, we're in trouble.
Yeah, noticeable difference.
Noticeable difference as the overcast rolls in all the way to Ontario and Riverside. The overcast was rather deep in some spots. In fact, they had an 1/8 of a mile visibility out in Riverside in fog, and the cloudy skies all the way to Ontario. Well, that's burning off slowly today. We'll get some afternoon sunshine, hazy though it may be, and the temperatures will stay on the mild side, only high of 70s today. In the upper 70s, about 78 degrees will be our forecast high downtown. Coastal areas will stay generally somewhere between hazy to foggy all day long. The inland areas will get a little bit of sunshine. Very active out in the Gulf of Alaska. We have 2 frontal systems and a very complex and deep storm center out in the Gulf. That has been there for a couple of days. This first frontal system moving in will be the first to knock down completely this ridge of high pressure. In fact, its demise is the reason why we got that strong sea breeze coming in. We are expecting shower activity with this first system for the northwest coast, and then much heavier rain for the weekend for the northwest out of these 2 systems that will move onshore. The rest of the country, well, it looks rather quiet, but actually it's been very cold. Last night, it was a real cold night. Temperatures dropping into the teens and 20s, with snow flurries occurring throughout the Great Lakes. In fact, they're getting the lake effect. Cold air goes over the warmer water. It causes some convection, and some snow showers were caused right here along the Lake Erie and Lake Ontario area because of that. Minimum temperatures were cold last night. In fact, 18 was they broke a brand new record in Duluth, Minnesota, and temperatures down to the 40s and 30s in the deep south as well. For us, here is our forecast. We will continue with this thick overcast again tonight, so we're looking for the low clouds and fog all the way into the valleys with a low of 62. Tomorrow, Thursday, the morning coastal clouds will continue till around noontime in most areas, then hazy afternoon sunshine. High temperatures will stay in the mid-70s, so at least it's a little bit cooler. I don't see any rain out of these two systems for our area. Nonetheless, San Francisco could be in for its first little rainstorm later this week.
Okay. When the shuttle was getting ready to go up, we talked to Mac a great deal about just how the weather would be and the importance of that. Well, now that the astronauts are back on Earth, they are talking about their experience aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery, and they say in a word that their journey was just super. At their first post-mission news conference yesterday, they relived the flight with the help of some home movies. Bruce Hall has more.
The launch of Discovery marked America's return to manned spaceflight. The 5 astronauts aboard said unlike earlier flights, their light schedule gave them time to reflect, to look out the windows, to take in the awe-inspiring sunrises and sunsets. But most of all, the astronauts said they had time to have fun, like at mealtime when they reverted back to childlike activities, throwing food back and forth.
Here's a target practice with an M&M that's out there in the middle, and I think it's a bullseye. It must have been a fluke because the next shot misses by 3 inches here.
We had our own fish bowl here.
We'd eaten most of the fish by this time.
Yes.
And since they were flying during the Olympics, they tried their own routines.
We were inspired. I was inspired to try a little pommel horse routine using the treadmill there. I didn't find this so hard at all. I don't know why it's such a big deal.
Wasn't that pretty either, Mike? However, the judges did vote and gave them...
fairly generous.
Sometimes you've got to unwind the commander a little bit.
There was also time for spectacular shots of the Hawaiian Islands, volcanoes in Indonesia, and an unusual look at wave movements in the ocean off Somalia.
We could look back on a flight that was, as far as I'm concerned, picture perfect and could not have been better for the country and getting us back in the manned spaceflight business.
And for Commander Rick Houck, it was his last flight, saying he is stepping aside to give younger astronauts their chance to fly. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Johnson Space Center.
Well, back on Earth, there's a profitable shuttle in Donald Trump's future. The billionaire real estate developer is buying Eastern Airlines' Northeast shuttle operation for $365 million. He takes possession of the operation come this December.
What I want to do is run it as a diamond, an absolute diamond. I want the employees to be well taken care of. I want everybody to be happy. As Frank said, we're keeping the same people right on. We're not letting anyone go. But I want to run it immaculately clean, as we do with this hotel, as we do with whatever we do.
The deal includes acquisition of 17 Boeing 727 jetliners, plus gates and landing slots at 3 airports. Stock prices are suffering a broad setback today amid rumors the trade deficit to be reported tomorrow will be larger than previously expected. As of noon, the Dow Jones Industrial Average stood at 2121.80, down about 34.5 points.
And we still have a lot more ahead on Action News this noon.
Dr. Torman digs into the mailbag when we return. Stay with us.
Do you know what to do when someone dies? Are you knowledgeable about making funeral arrangements, buying cemetery property, or deciding on cremation? Pierce Brothers Information Service will be helpful to you before you make a decision. Our 28 locations provide convenience and affordable prices that can be guaranteed in writing. We will even come to your home to show you our total plan starting at only $494. Call Pierce Brothers for information before you make a decision.
Today on Geraldo.
They hit an all-time low for a cheap chemical high. Teens who trade sex for dope on the next Geraldo.
Geraldo, today at 4 on the one and only 2.
Read.
Johnny can't read, and Johnny's our future. Channel 2 Action News will present a special town meeting to confront Southern California's growing education crisis.
Save our schools, Friday at 8 on Channel 2.
I'm Saul Fessman, president of Queen City Home Healthcare. I'd like to tell you about a medical product that is very effective and may be at no cost to you. This is the seat lift chair that is also a recliner. It is being used by thousands of people who suffer from severe arthritis as a form of treatment in their homes. Best of all, if you qualify, you could receive this chair at no cost. Here's how. you must have a qualifying condition such as severe arthritis or other diseases which makes the chair a medically necessary treatment. You must be enrolled in Medicare Part B and have a Medicare coinsurance policy which covers the Medicare deductible and copayment. Many people suffer from arthritis and cannot get up from a seated position. This chair will give them the freedom to get around and help them avoid falls and injuries. So if you're a Medicare recipient and you meet the previous conditions, then you can get this recline and lift chair delivered to your door at no cost. Call 1-800-950-9500 toll free. 1-800-950-9500.
There is a new report out today on the accuracy of aid tests, and it says the military is able to perform them efficiently and with great accuracy. According to today's New England Journal of Medicine, Armed Forces research shows better than 99% accuracy in tests done on 135,000 recruits. It suggests that routine, accurate AIDS checks are possible on a wider scale. The risk of falsely testing positive for the virus is often cited by critics as an argument against routine AIDS screening. Valerie.
Thank you very much, Chris. Dr. Howard Torman is here now. He's going to be dipping into the mailbag. But first, is there a comment that you can make? You're going to do the story that Chris was just referring to.
Yeah, actually, we're going to describe in
5.
detail on Action News at 5 exactly what that testing means to you and just how accurate it really is for everyone who might be concerned about AIDS.
Okay, great. And what about the mailbag?
We've got some good ones today, I think. The first one comes from Harold in Banning, and Harold says, my internist recommended taking St. Joseph aspirin-free chewable tablets instead of the regular aspirin to help ward off strokes and heart attacks. He says, I take 1 tablet daily, which has 80 milligrams of acetaminophen. He wants to know if that's sufficient. Acetaminophen, by the way, is a Tylenol or Tylenol-like drug. And in a word, no, it's not sufficient, probably, because we now know from a variety of studies that aspirin seems to, number one, decrease the risk of strokes for some folks, decreases the risk of having a second heart attack if you've already had one. And then this year, there was a huge study that came out that pointed out that taking low-dose aspirin, and that means a baby aspirin every day or a regular aspirin every other day, that could actually cut down your risk of having a first heart attack. Very important. But the key thing is it has to be aspirin, because the aspirin actually thins out the blood. If you use Tylenol or acetaminophen, as it's officially known, no good, doesn't work. It actually won't do anything for thinning out the blood. So the idea is to use aspirin only. Now, one real word of caution here. We all take aspirin all the time. It's in the medicine chest. We pop a couple when we've got a headache or whatever. We get used to having it around. If you take aspirin on a regular basis, though, you run a serious risk of having some bleeding problems. So before you decide to do this, be sure and talk to your doctor, and he'll tell you whether you're one who should be taking it or shouldn't be taking it.
Bleeding problems because you can get a cumulative effect of what aspirin would do to help a stroke victim, that is...
Yeah, sort of. I mean, in fact, we're sort of betting on the fact this thing thins out the blood. For some people, it can thin it out enough so they'll bleed internally. It also, we know that aspirin causes ulcers. It can cause those ulcers, if you're taking enough aspirin on top of that, cause the ulcer to bleed. You can end up with extremely serious problems.
If they've been taking it a lot and if they stop, can they rejuvenate and get their blood back to where it was?
Pretty much. It's not the sort of thing that's an end point that kills everything off, but very important to consult with your doc first. Okay, the next letter comes from Marjorie in Los Angeles. She says, I was about to have a tooth pulled recently, and the dental surgeon was disturbed that my blood pressure reading, it was 198 over 129. I told him that was rare. It was rarely that high, and it usually stays more around 140 over 86. He insisted that I should be on some medication. I'll tell you, personally, going to the dentist to have a tooth pulled, I think that's a reasonable thing to have your blood pressure go up over. In fact, we already know that there's such a thing called white coat hypertension. You go to your doctor's office, he takes your blood pressure, and it's very likely that it will be higher than normal. In fact, what we usually do is say, if your blood pressure is elevated on one occasion, then what you need to do is come back and have it taken again, maybe by the nurse, or take it a couple of times at home. Usually we don't like to start medications just on the basis of one reading. Now, you hear us talk about these numbers all the time. Let me try and explain to you what they really mean. Here's a typical blood pressure reading, say 120 over 72. That's pretty normal. This first number is called the systolic. That's how hard your heart is actually pumping the blood. The second number, called the diastolic, is the pressure that the blood sort of just sits in your body at in between heartbeats. Now, you have high blood pressure if this first number is 160 or better, or if the second number is 90 or greater. Those are the numbers we worry about, and that if you've got consistent readings in that range or higher, then you do need to have your blood pressure treated.
Okay, good information. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to the 5 o'clock report for more details on that study. Chris, back over to you.
And you can write to Dr. Howard Torman with your questions at right here at KCBS. Address your letter or postcard to Dr. Howard Torman, 6121 Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90028. And we'll be back with more here at noon in just a moment.
We were shocked when the banks turned down our home loan. They said we had some credit problems and that we didn't have enough income.
We just wanted to fix up the house and pay off our bills.
Yeah, and get some breathing room. So we called First Alliance.
They put together a loan we really could afford. We saved $500 right away because there was no application or appraisal fee.
And we got our money in just 10 working days.
Call First Alliance at 1-800-452-4488.
It was so easy.
Sax, right?
Close time.
The Broadway?
Close time.
Nordstrom.
Close time.
Bullocks?
Close time. Close time.
Designer brands at 20 to 50% off.
Find hour after hour of incredible savings at Circuit City's Marathon Sale. Save on this Akai 100-watt audio-video control receiver with remote, just $299. This RCA 25-inch color TV with remote, only $438. Find hour after hour of incredible savings. It's the Marathon Sale at Circuit City, the intelligent choice.
The look is black. The store is Stroud's. The best money can buy for a lot less money.
Coming up on Action Noon at 5 o'clock, troubleshooter Judd McIlvain helps a woman who says that she has been cheated by a computer dealer. She says she's out both $800 and a laser printer. Plus, entertainment reporter Steve Kometko talks with Shirley MacLaine about her first feature film in 5 years. It's called Madame Susatska. And that'll be interesting to find out about that. There's those stories plus all the late-breaking news ahead at 5 o'clock.
And we just wanted to say that everybody has been talking about those Dodgers, so we're going to add our hopes. Keep our fingers crossed. This is it, guys. No other shot after tonight.
Well, the hometown has really gotten behind the team this year. And, of course, a lot of people said at the beginning of the season they didn't think they'd go this far. So win or lose, they've had a great season.
So as the guys would say, how do you like us now? We'll like you better if you just get this next game. See you tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon.